Welcome back to One-on-One with Mr. U. Of course, I'm your host. Mr. U in studio with us is my twin, Matt Morizio, former Kansas City Royal, entrepreneur, and founder of Reconstructing Wealth. Good morning, Matt. What's up, twin?
Good morning. Thank you. Good choice on the purple. We are twins. I mean, see us in public, they wouldn't be able to tell us apart.
Probably not. Great minds think alike. I love it.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about. Of all colors, we both wore purple.
Yeah, I don't know what led me there, man, but it's just a feeling. I just kind of went with it, and look what happened.
Here
Turned
we
out
are.
awesome, man. But we had a great pre-interview chat, man. We delved into an incredible life story that you got, and I'm hoping we can get into it in about 30 minutes. You got so much stuff going on, brother, but it's gonna be fun though. If it has to be a part 2, we'll make it happen. No worries there, man. But as customary, I ask all of our guests coming in, very first question out of the chute: describe your childhood and upbringing. Most folks can find that easy. Some folks get triggered. We're ready for it either way. So go ahead and share what life was like for you as young Matt, and how you got to from there to here. So go ahead and share that with us, bro.
Sure. Well, as a young child, I had I think a decent upbringing. I probably was in like a lower middle class life. And my parents split. They divorced when I was maybe 3rd grade or so. And I spent, it was like every other weekend and Wednesday nights with my dad. So he was very much in my life. It wasn't like I didn't know who he was. But most of the time, just raised by my mom in my childhood home and every other weekend with him. And that was kind of my normal until college. I went to Northeastern and played baseball there, man. What I will say is like the through line of my whole life has always been like I felt this pull and this call on my heart to do something big. I think we all are in there and we all have that. I think some of us listen to it, some of us don't. And I think big is relative. I think big for some people can just be, I say justice, I don't mean that. It means big for some people is I'm going to be a parent, raise a family, and grow young, like amazing world changers. Others feel like different calls that are on their heart. But for me, when I was young, it was baseball. Like I'm talking like preschool, graduation yearbook. I wrote in my graduation book that I wanted to be a pro baseball player, which at that age is not abnormal. There's that and firefighters and veterinarians and astronauts, you know, like they want to be all those.
In baseball.
What's that?
In baseball.
Yeah, in baseball. So that was what I wanted. Yeah. And but I chased it, and I chased it hard for nearly 20 years, basically. I played all my whole childhood. I played in college at Northeastern, and then I played professionally, like you said, in the minor leagues with the Royals. And I ultimately didn't get there to the major leagues. I stayed in the minor leagues, which was funny to think back to say, man, like I spent 20 years chasing something that I ended up not getting there. That's a long time in life. But I will tell you, man, that journey taught me so much about who I am. I call especially the 5 professional seasons. I call those were like an MBA of life or masters in life or something. That's kind of what I attribute those 5 years as. But after that, my life, real life, no longer my baseball chasing life, happened. And I had recently been married and got pregnant with our first child while literally couch surfing, trying to find a home because I got released right after my wife quit her teaching job. Released is the baseball term for being fired.
Yeah, that's the word for fired. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're both driving back to Arizona. We had just gotten married. We don't have jobs. We don't have anywhere to live. We're driving back from Arizona to Massachusetts, I should say. And we're trying to figure that out. And as we're like couch surfing, trying to find a home, we get pregnant. And man, that story hasn't stopped for 13 years, but we have 7 children now. So, and the oldest is 13, the youngest is 2. And at age 40, not to shortcut this whole thing, but at age 40, a couple years ago, I launched my own investing firm. So financial planning, investment management. So entrepreneur with 7 children and a wife at home as the sole provider. I launched my business at 40. So never too late to go chase other dreams.
No, not at all. I want to get into all that stuff if we can too, man. But our story is not exactly the same. It's similar in some ways. Baseball is my first love, so I definitely want to spend a little bit of time talking about it. If it's a rabbit hole, that's what happens. That's just what happens. But I love baseball like that. It's my first sports love, so anything can happen. It's all on the table. But as far as the part, my wife and I, we don't share the story a lot, but we've been home 3 times. Some short stints. It's weird because like, wow, it the fear that you feel when you're like, okay, I don't have a place to go. I'm out here. I mean, I can't go to a hotel. I can't go to one of those short stay deals. I'm out here on the street. It's a level of fear that I don't know if I can put into words. Even though it's a short stint, people are out here in the streets now, living days, weeks, months, years in the streets. So I can't imagine what they're feeling, and I definitely sympathize with them. But in my little short stints of 3 times that happened, and the fear was incredible. How did you and your wife handle that, knowing that not only were you out, basically homeless, but you didn't have a place to go, but you also had a child coming too. What were the conversations like between you guys? What were you guys talking about? How was that? Were you guys clashing? What was happening there?
Man, thank you God that we were not like on the street homeless. We had families, couches and stuff that we could surf on for a little while.
Yeah.
But regardless, we felt very displaced and felt a little bit frustrated. If I'm being honest, we kind of felt frustrated with God. Like our faith's important to us. And I think that as the center of our relationship is the thing that has kept us through the really hard times, especially, but also like we can find joy in that in the really good times. But in that season where we're homeless, like really what I would attribute that to is like, we were frustrated with the way the outcome took, like it was unfolding, because our opinion and our plan, our trying to control the situation was that she was going to quit her job. We were going to go play baseball. It was going to be a fun newlywed thing. We're on this journey together. And that wasn't the plan. And when it didn't go as planned, when we didn't have the control we wish we had, we were like very frustrated and hurt and scared, because like, what do we do now? I just quit a teaching job. I have only ever played baseball my whole life. So I'm struggling with this identity thing of like, who am I? What do I do? She's like, I just quit my teaching job. And then she gets pregnant, so she can't go get a full-time job because she knew like no one's going to hire her full-time. So we were really leaning on faith heavy in that season. And we were also really struggling to figure out what our next steps were. Thankfully, our relationship was brand new, really like newlyweds. So we had that like young, exciting love still. So we had this figure it out mentality, thankfully. But we were riddled with unknown and fear the whole time. Like we were like, are we going to have this baby on somebody's couch? Like, what the heck are we going to do? So we weren't at a necessarily hard emotional place in a relationship, because we had family to lean on, and we were newlyweds and like had this young, exciting love kind of feeling. Later on in our relationship, through multiple valleys, peaks and valleys, but the valleys, we did have emotional struggles and strains, and that's where faith really came through.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, that makes total sense now. Thanks for sharing that too, by the way. This thing with baseball and the identity, I think that's so powerful, man. And I don't get a chance to get these kind of insights, so I want to dig in a little bit. I want to talk about some base. I want to talk about some ball too. I want to kind of get into a little bit of this because you mentioned something real powerful about how, like you said, your identity was wrapped up in the sport, in what you were doing, and outside of that, you kind of didn't know who you were. What did you see from other players in that regard while you were there? Did you get any kind of warning sign that, you know what, this is kind of like a dead end street? Either I'm a baseball player or I'm not. So do you have any insights about that from the time you were there, or even since then, since you left the sport?
Yeah, well, what happens is with a lot of players, especially guys that play at a high level, at the professional level, is that they kind of feel like that is who they are, so they therefore stay in the game some way, shape, or form. But they stay in the game and aren't really necessarily happy about it all the time. So when I say stay in the game, I mean they become a coach, or they become a scout, or they work their way to the front office of a major league club of some way, shape, or form. And it's kind of like a new baseball ladder that they have to climb, because that's how, interestingly, in the minor leagues, I didn't realize this, but when I got drafted, I thought, like, I am knocking on the doorstep. And I guess theoretically I was, relative to most people. But when I got drafted, I went to Idaho Falls, Idaho with the Royals. That was their short season A program. They had 2 short season programs at the time, and then 4 full season programs. The difference being one season starts in June, goes through September. The other one started in April and goes through September. So like low A, high A, double A, triple A. So my point is, there were 6 minor league levels in total. And I was like, are you kidding? What in the world? Well, when I'm playing in Idaho Falls, Idaho, and I'm getting to talking to literally everybody, like umpires, other players, managers, coaching staff, everybody, I'm not joking, everybody is on that same grind journey. Like the umpires have just completed umpire school, and they got assigned to the low-level minor leagues, and they're working hard to get promoted to the next level and hopefully one day become a big league umpire. The coaches are coaching at the low levels, hoping one day they will climb to the higher levels and then become a big league. The front office members are like, ideally want to get one day affiliated with one of the front office staff of 30 league. I'm like, we are all on this crazy climb together.
Wow. Going to ladder.
So when you live and breathe that your entire life, quite literally over 20 years of my life, that's what I did. And that's what I was in the same boat as everybody else playing. They all kind of struggle with, in some way, shape, or form, with that identity crisis of like, what do I do now? And the sad part to me is that most stay in the game, but feel like they're supposed to do something else. They just don't know what. So by default, they're like, baseball is what I know, so I stay in it. And then they live this unhappy 40 plus years. Because, you get released at 23. I was 25 or 26. I was like a dinosaur getting released. I was so much older than everybody else. But like, you've got 40 plus years of a professional career, and they don't know who they are or what they're good at. And they're too afraid to rebrand themselves in any way. So they just stay in baseball and kind of grind it out in the scouting department. Scouts also trying to climb to become a front office staff in the major leagues one day. Everybody's on the same climb, and they're like, well, I guess I'll just do this climb in a different form now. And not always enjoying it. Some do, some for sure enjoy it, but most don't. And I feel for them, because they were too afraid to take any leap anywhere else, which is kind of counterintuitive, because these guys have chased statistical odds their entire life.
Absolutely.
Like, their whole life, they were at 0.01% chance of making wherever they were going, yet they still went for it. So for me, I'm like, why don't you just use that wiring and go do anything else? Like, if the odds are against you, so what? You've lived your whole life that way. What's the difference?
Yeah. That's what I'm curious about. What is the difference? Why is it different? I don't think I fully understand. Maybe it's a little bit deeper than we can understand. Like you said, like you laid it out, they've been fighting the odds all their life. I mean, I remember when I was into baseball, my first sports love. We didn't even have a viable baseball field where I grew up in Brooklyn.
Wow.
It was just like you could tell it was a field, but it was poorly kept by rocks. So you don't want a ball hitting a rock when you kind of only bad things can result from that.
That's the problem.
So you don't want that. The ball hitting the ground is when the ball hitting the rock and hitting you in the face is a whole different ball game. So we don't want that. So that was a rough slide. Like the chances of me going to the majors from that were like so minuscule, and people had played in the league with worse stories than that, whether it be in the Dominican Republic or whatever it is, and they overcame the odds. But these guys, for some reason, can't see the bridge to something else like you did, which is pretty awesome. What did you learn about you? Go ahead.
Well, you're right. I think it is deeper than that. And here's what I really think it is. I think it's that the same thing I struggled with for a little bit. We all, as athletes, baseball players, I'm going to speak for us in general, because I understand us. We, our entire life, identified as a baseball player. And I think when you when you even try to step outside it, your community and the people around you remind you who you are. It's really difficult to get outside. Like when I would come home from getting drafted back to my hometown to visit my mother or something, because I was mostly away, but I would come back for holidays or something, and inevitably I'd run into a store and see somebody. Like it wasn't even that I had high school friends that I went back and hang out at their parties. I just would be in my hometown. And because when you're in these small towns and you get drafted, like people remember that because that's like big news. And there's not much big news, so they remember that one. And I would get back there and I'd go to a restaurant or somewhere in town. People would see me, and then within like 30 seconds of catching up of like, I know your face, hold on. Oh, you're the baseball player, right? Like that's how people would identify and connect a dot with me. So even if I'm working internally to be like, yeah, I'm more than a baseball player, I'm reminded by everybody that I interact with that like, you're the baseball player, right? So it's really hard. It's really difficult to unwind that identity. There's also some pride and ego and pain of unwinding the baseball player part because it's something you chased so long. And ultimately you're admitting failure when you're like, all right, I'm going to do something else. It's truth. Like you have to come face to face with like, I wasn't good enough. And therefore I got to move forward. But I think most guys, if I'm going to be real, can't unwind that identity enough, can't find who they are. Like for me, my identity became rooted in faith and it was who I was. Baseball was what I did. And too many guys stay in that baseball is who I am mentality, even if they'll tell you verbally, no, it's just what I do. Like it's ingrained in their internal, like who I am identity. And they can't unwind it and they're too afraid to. And that's really sad. But I think that's the reality is too many guys are too afraid to unwind and see what else is out there. So they're like, this is what I know. And truthfully, it's easier. It's just more comfortable to stay in the game. You know it. You've done it for 20 plus years. You've done it at the highest levels. Like, might as well just stick with this. It's the easy path. So it's scary to unwind and difficult to re-identify. And I guess the last piece is it's the more comfortable path, which is a problem. It's usually not the right path, but like that's the one they take.
That's the word, the comfort. There you go. Now, this one thing I want to get into it. We have no time for this, but I'm trying. But I want to get, if you have a biggest takeaway for yourself from your time in baseball. You mentioned something about, not being good enough. And I want you to kind of fold that into the answer that you give me, because for me, watching baseball players, I was always into the mechanics and analytics per se, but just the mechanics and just the behind the sports stuff. I was always so heavily into that. But what does that mean to say I'm not good enough? Does that mean that you missed some kind of important training as a younger kid, or was it a physical thing? Was it a mental thing? I want to understand that, but I also want your biggest takeaway from your time in baseball. So kind of a two-part question.
Yeah, but I think I can connect them. Yeah. So my answer is the short answer. The cool thing about baseball, it's kind of like sales. I mean, it's a numbers game. And if you are not putting up the numbers that you need to consistently, you don't continue to play. That's what it boils down to. So at the end of the day, not being good enough is a physical thing. But I believe in my case, in most cases, just because I've played with so many guys that have made the big leagues, even more that haven't, the ones that made the big leagues were not physically more gifted in any real way, shape, or form for the most part. They were not necessarily exceptionally more talented than the rest of the people.
Okay.
So my answer is, yeah, it's physical, but really I think it's a mental thing that translates into a physical problem on the field. And what I mean is, for me, mentally, I would have told you that, and it's true, I wasn't lying. I was bullheaded. I would run through a wall. You can knock me down 100 times, I'll get up again. And that's who I was. Like I took pride in that. But two things. One, baseball is a weird game where like you've got to play at 80% so that you can stay loose and smooth, because tense muscles move slower. So like your swing is actually better mentally at 80% than 100%. Same with throwing, playing the game. And when you have that bulldog mentality, that it's really difficult to like dial that down to play at that high level. But interestingly, I was too bullheaded to dial it down. So there's one piece of the mental side that like limited my physical ability. But the other piece was my confidence was really crushed, and I didn't understand what real mental work, visualization actually meant until well into my professional life, as an entrepreneur, or at least the early stages of my business development entrepreneurial life. So for me, visualizing was, hey, get yourself in a headspace where you can see the ball hit the bat and just continue to see the ball hit the bat. I was like, all right, I'll see the ball hit the bat. What I didn't realize is there's so many more elements to visualization that no one taught me, right? Like, to get into it a little bit now, this is one of those, hey, this is where most people fail kind of thing at that level, because they don't understand when people say it's a mental game. What I'm about to say is what people are talking about. The mental game comes from confidence. Confidence comes from an undeniable amount of reps in a self-belief, because you've executed at a high level so many reps that you know without a doubt you're going to go and succeed in whatever you're doing. But those reps can't be in-game reps, because those are so variable. You could take a great swing, put the ball on the bat perfectly, sweet spot, and line out to the center fielder. Great at bat, great swing, great hit. It's an out, So the way to successfully execute an infinite number of perfect reps, base hits, home runs, whatever they are, is to do it in your mind. And interestingly, like, I've learned brain science, if we can go there real quick, your conscious and your subconscious mind, well, your subconscious can't tell the difference from your conscious and your subconscious mind. So the brain has this part of your brain. This is all stuff I've learned post-playing that I was like, man, if I knew this, I would have really actually understood what a mental game was. Your brain has what's called a reticular activating system. This is the part of your brain. Think of it as like the filter for your brain. It's like the matrix for your brain. So we can't possibly focus on every single stimulus that's around us, because we would short circuit, like every noise, every sound effect, everything. If we actually had to respond to all of it, we would be going crazy all day long. The cars, the birds, the wind, the smells, the heat, sound, everything is like stimulating. So your brain understands what's a threat, what isn't, what's important, what isn't, and it filters out all that stuff. So it happens basically behind the scenes of your life. Think about when you're going to go buy a new car and you start to look at you dial in on one particular vehicle, one particular color. All of a sudden, you start to see that vehicle in more places. Like, dang, there's that car. There it is again.
That's the truth.
And it's because your brain, you've told your subconsciously, you've told your mind, this is important to me now. And now your brain goes to work filtering it into your life. Like, okay, now you need to see that then. So
it was all my fault the whole time? Okay, I thought
it was always there before. It's like the Matrix. It was out in front of you before, but your brain didn't filter it in because it didn't recognize it as important.
Oh, wow.
So what you need to do mentally when you're visualizing is intentionally set aside 10 minutes of pure quiet. See yourself in some highlight reel, like some well-executed play at bat, on the mound. For me, it's like future business experiences. But then you sit in those experiences and you fully embody them with all the senses. Like, let's just use baseball as an example. You're in a stadium. It's a big game. You hear the crowd. You might even hear the guy yelling popcorn. You can smell the hot dogs. You hear the at-bat music of the next guy coming up. You feel the dirt under your feet, whatever position you're in. And then what you do is you connect your emotion to it. Like, because of the success that you're having, you want to feel that joy, that gratitude, that like pure bliss of that experience. And you relive it over and over and over. And those are like 1,000 reps without, it's free. Basically, it's dreaming. It's free. But you create those reps, there's like undeniable confidence that gets stacked inside your subconscious mind, to the point where you go, like me, 1 every 8 games. And I saw myself in the lineup on that 8th day or the 5th day or whatever, because I was a backup catcher at that point. And I like had this pit in my stomach, like, oh crap. And as soon as I had that, I lost. I'm out. It's such a
Wow.
confidence game at that level. But had I understood how to mentally work behind the scenes, I didn't need in-game at-bats in order to actually succeed. I just didn't know. Nobody ever taught me that. So really, like the biggest lesson of the game that I learned that finally like tie into your whole answer is that you're always replaceable. That's actually one of the biggest lessons. There are very few roles in life that you are irreplaceable. I would argue even none. Even as a dad, like if I was a terrible dad to my kids, kick me to the curb and get somebody who's going to love them properly. Like, even as a dad, if you don't assume that role well, like you could be replaced for somebody better. And
gotcha.
I'll tell you, I can tell you a quick story on that. It went like when it hit me, and I don't know why it hit me in this moment, but every spring training, dozens of guys get released. Throughout the season, guys get released. It's a normal part of the game. That's like the business side of baseball. It happens. It stinks, but like you sort of see it and move on. Well, we were at the end of a long road trip, and at the end of the road trip, the bus drives you back to the stadium where you drove and you parked so you can get your equipment off, leave your equipment in your locker for the game the next day. Then you get in your cars and drive home. So we're going to the stadium at the end of a long road trip. It's like 3 or 4 in the morning. And one of my teammates got called as we're getting off the bus. Like imagine 3 or 4 in the morning, it's been dark and everyone's like this because the lights just turned on, their eyes are like half open. And my teammate got called, and all of us are just trying to race home to get a few hours sleep because we got to get back to the ballpark. So we heard him get called, but we're groggy and not even thinking twice about it. Well, when we show back up to the ballpark at like 2 a.m., he had apparently met with the manager in his office at that time and had been handed a plane ticket home. He was going back to the Dominican, and he was released. But when we get back to the ballpark at 2 in the afternoon, that same day when we just got dropped off 3 in the morning, in his locker, there's a new name badge above his jersey. It's the number, but it's a new name on the back of it. In the lineup, this guy's replaced him. So if you are a fan showing up to the game that night, you had no idea that a guy's dream just ended at 3 a.m. that morning. And this is a new guy that has never played at this level, but he just got put in the lineup tonight. The train keeps chugging. And I was like, in that moment, I don't know why, that moment I was like, man, you're always replaceable. Like there's always somebody chasing me. And it motivates me, but it also humbles me to think like I'm not that good. No matter how hard I want to or how great I might think I am in any situation, like there's somebody out there that's better. So like I'm going to lean into my gifts, leverage what I know I'm good at, and continue to walk what I feel like is the path God wants me to walk. But I'm like very aware that I am not God's gift to anything. There's always people that are better at certain things, but it does keep me hungry to keep hustling to know like, okay, maybe you can replace me, but I'm going to make it really difficult to replicate me.
No question. We got to move a little bit faster. I want to get a few more questions in about some baseball, but before we talk about what you're doing in the realm of finances. But I love what you said about the 80% player on my favorite baseball team said that he plays at 80%, and the man got vilified. I thought they were going to fish hook that man. I'm like, they were like, not 100. Why not 100%? I'm like, and you explained it so well. I wish you were there to explain it for him because you explained it perfectly. Why 80% is better than 100 in some cases. But now, as a fan, you're watching the game on TV now. I'm not sure if you're watching the Royals or you're watching somebody else, but you're watching the games now. Yep. The games seem to have changed over decades. Real quick answer: is this a good thing or a bad thing in your opinion?
I think good thing overall. I think if the game doesn't change, well, for me, I think growth in any way, shape, or form has to include change. So I think it's growing and evolving. So I think every change is great, probably not. But I think it's fun to see the speed of the game, the power of the guys. I think overall, I think the evolution of the game has been a good thing.
All right, we're going to keep on moving. I don't think we have enough time to go where I want to go with this. One word feeling when you hit your first home run. What was the feeling?
Joy is the first word that came to my mind. Oh man, overwhelmed is probably another word.
How long did it take you to get around back to home plate? If you were that overwhelmed, how long did it take you? But just like
not long. I'm not positive I even touched the ground. I might have floated around the bases.
I can only imagine, man. Actually, this question in our pre-interview I thought was so interesting. Your oldest son wants to play pro baseball. All that you've been through, I'm thinking, you know what? You're going to have a different answer for him when he comes to you. So, you know what, Dad, I want to play baseball too, like you did. I want to, I want to go further and do whatever. But what's your response to him if he comes to you and says he wants to play baseball? You said he already did that already. So what was your response?
Yeah, my response was amazing. Like, awesome. I'm here to help you. That's going to take more work than you could ever imagine, but you can do it. If you want to put your work in, you can do it. Because I know as an athlete, the worst thing you can have is somebody to diminish your confidence. Like, because you can be more confident and be physical. So let me say this differently. You can be more physically gifted, but a less confident player, and actually lose out to the more confident player, even if he's not as physically gifted. It's such a mental game. But I also, so I guess I didn't want to diminish his confidence, and I also wanted to like help him understand that it's possible. It's just going to take work, and I'm there to support him. But my role as dad is cheerleader. My role as dad is not coach extraordinaire, and to like reprimand him on games and rides home. Like, yes, coach,
that happens a lot.
Yeah, I just cheer him on. I help him, but like, he doesn't need the negativity from me. He can get it from other places.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
You talked about what living a wealthy life meant to you. I want you to get into that a little bit. I know we're up against it time-wise, so I'm trying to be mindful here. But I want you to get into that brief if you can. But you have an opportunity, or you had an opportunity, to go for the comfortable, stable job. And when you're starting a family, especially from the beginning, you know what I'm saying? That's the thing that kind of gives new families the most ease, It's kind of become the default. How did you convince the missus to kind of bet on you to do something different than that? How'd you start? This was a sales job extraordinaire. You guys are homeless, bun in the oven, and you're not going for the corporate job like the one that I had that I hated any minute of it, knowing I was replaceable at any minute. Mm-hmm. How did you get her to bet on you and God and kind of help steer you guys to the wealthy life that you were shooting for? Kind of get into that real quick if you can, as brief as you can.
Sure. So to first define, for me, defining wealth. Did I lose you here? Or are you still there?
No, that's just me touching things I shouldn't be touching.
Oh, okay. Cool. No, I just saw you disappear, and I was like, oh shoot, did I mess up?
What a minute. No, it's all
so to me, defining wealth first is that I kind of look in like 4 buckets, and I didn't make these up. I just heard them years ago, and it works for me. So I stole it. Faith, then family, then fitness, then finance. So I keep the main thing is the best way to say it. So I prioritize that. That to me, if you're winning in those areas in that order, inevitably you're going to live a fulfilled and wealthy life. You're going to, be full. So for me, that's first and foremost. I'm chasing that. But the other part was, man, who you marry matters so much. Like, she's always been my biggest supporter, my biggest cheerleader. And she believes in me, even if I don't believe in me. And I didn't teach her that. That's just like, sometimes her role as my wife and my role as her husband sometimes is just to hold a mirror up to her face, or she to mine, to show me like who she sees me to be, because sometimes I can't see, So she really encouraged me to go for it. And in sales first, we both knew, like, in sales, you at least have the potential to outsell and then out earn over time, comparatively to like a back office support job. So she encouraged me to go for that, and then to go launch my own thing with 7 kids and the sole provider and all. Again, it's just her belief in me. And in my sales role, it was a staffing. So I was part of a finance and accounting staffing team at a company called K-Force, and I got a lot of new candidates as job offers when they were part of layoffs. Oh, we're having a restructuring. We just got bought. We sold a business unit. All these different reasons. These people just get like kicked to the curb, not because of their performance, just because of like something completely out of their hands. So I saw that over and over and over and leaned into that when I was in staffing, because I'm like, hey, some good employees are available. Like, let's go find them new jobs. That to me became really scary over time, because I was like, am I going to hitch my wagon to somebody who at any moment, for any reason that is something that's completely out of my control, they can tell me, hey, great job, you're done. At least in baseball, I knew, like, hey, you can't hit water if you fell off a boat. You can't keep playing baseball. Sorry. Like, okay, get it. I understand. Not a shock. But I looked at entrepreneurship. I kind of flipped that then on its head to say, entrepreneurship feels like the safer path, because it's me that I'm betting on. And if I fail, then we lose. But if I keep winning, nobody's going to tell me that we're going to have a corporate restructuring and my job's over, right? Like, there will
That's true.
inevitably be like obstacles I've got to avoid and overcome. But like, I'll bet on myself more than just hitch my wagon to somebody else. So to us, like, over time, entrepreneurship became the clearer path. And again, it's because she believed in me. She's like, you can do this. And it's funny, really quick, when I finally was like, hey, Addie, I've been praying a lot about this. I think it's time for me to launch my business. Addie's my wife's name. I'm like, I think it's time to go and launch my business. Her first response, she was like, finally, I was waiting for you to say that. I'm like, oh my gosh. Thank you for saying that. That's so, anyway, her unwavering support is the only way this is possible.
I love this, man. I wish we had more time, but we're going to go ahead and pivot to our final question for the day. You've been kind of prepped for it. Everybody that is a part of our show gets to ask the same question, and I got to dig deep into the archives to find the answer. Happens every single episode, but it's all good though. So you're not playing baseball. You're not doing personal finance. What is Matt most likely doing in career, vocation, mission? What are you most likely doing if baseball and personal finance are not in the picture?
I am probably, I'm going to pretend like money's not an object. We just have whatever. Like, I'm just going to make this up. So I'm probably living in a place that is a destination of some way, shape, or form. Like, it's a place that people would like to come to. Not necessarily like I live in the Bahamas, but like I've got a property, let's say it's on the ocean, or it's in the mountains and it's a really scenic view or something. And I'm probably hosting people to come and bring their problems and troubles and all the things that's weighing heavy on them in life. And I'm probably restoring them and pouring encouragement into them and reshaping how they view their world and all the things, so that they can leave refreshed and rejuvenated and excited for what God has in store for them. I'm probably just doing that because when I can do that with people in people's lives, I just get lit up. So if I can do that in a place that, like, because I do believe your external environment influences your internal environment in many ways. So that's the reason for the scenery. Like, I think if they can come to a place that feels very different and feels very peaceful and feels very like, how do I say it? Like God inspired, then I think they're going to emotionally be in a different space. And in that different space, I think I can connect with them in a way to pour life into them and encouragement and sort of rethink, reshape, work through some of the stuff that's weighing heavy on them. I think I would just do that for a living. I mean, I get so juiced up when I can do that for people.
Don't we ask this question? It does several different things when we ask this question. But this is probably one of the few times that I can say this. These are the kind of answers that you need to consider. This is not some kind of thing you kind of pulled out of the air. I don't believe that. When I ask that question, I'm expecting God to show up in those answers. That's why I asked questions.
I love that.
He showed up in this one.
No, that's good.
You have to consider that. That is, if you get the whole money making aspect of it, forget that part. Right. That is a work that people would run to that need it. Matter of fact, if I had the finances, I'd partner with you on this one. I think that one is worth it. You and Addie talk about that one, consider it, pray on that one. That's powerful stuff right there.
Thanks,
because
man.
You don't realize how much your environment, and I don't want to take too much time here, but you don't realize how much of your environment plays a part in kind of how you feel and what you take in and what you put out. To be in a location like that, serene. I mean, if you've been on a retreat before, a real retreat, I've been on men's retreats and stuff, and I'm telling you, it's been awe-inspiring because of the environment and the intent to go there and recharge, get rejuvenated. To do it in a place like that, it's like extra bonuses attached to that.
Yeah.
So it's a retreat on top of a retreat, on top of a retreat, on top of a vacation, on top of a retreat. So I mean, that's what that is. So think about that. Maybe we'll even talk offline if you want to, but awesome stuff. Matt Morizio, ladies and gentlemen, man of faith, husband of 14 years, father of 7, former catcher and pitcher of the Royals, founder of Reconstructing Wealth, and an entrepreneur at heart, and obviously a great idea, man. You heard one just now. So thanks for jumping in here, Matt, man. It's been a pleasure to have you on. It should not be the last time we get together on this show, right?
No, I love it, man. Thank you for this. It's been an honor.
Oh, same here, brother. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Matt and Mr. Yu, we're out of here. Have a fantastic day. Thanks for watching.